What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for this NBA 5-game slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. We have 3 NBA slates throughout the entirety of the day, but this video will just be focusing on this 7 o'clock slate. I'll also be going live before lock a little bit later on in the day if you guys are interested in showing up to that. We do have a lot of pending injury news, so I feel like it's beneficial for a lot of you guys. And I'll be going live here on this channel. You guys can just join the pre-lock room. There's a little set reminder button. If you hit that button, it gives you a notification when I do go live. But again, I'll be going live around 5:30. I'll set the time for 5:30 officially. So let's go ahead and dive right into this NBA slate and go with what we know as of right now. Like I said, a lot of pending injury news. Some solidified injury news, so a lot of things that we already know, so it makes it easy here to cover the slate. But I will say that this slate does lack value, so it makes it a very interesting slate, to say the least. But let's go ahead and go game by game. We're going to be going team by team. I'll be going over my favorite GPP plays, cash plays, and just my overall interest in these teams as a whole. Let's focus here on the very first game with the Portland Trail Blazers and the Orlando Magic. This is a 216 over-under, which is right smack dab in the middle. We also have to consider that Norman Powell is back here, at least questionable here for the Trailblazers. If he does play, that changes up this team tremendously because all these price tags have been adjusted upward to kind of reflect Norman Powell being out alongside Damian Lillard and also McCollum. So that's one thing to consider here. Anthony Simons, I mean, this guy is going to get paid in the offseason if he keeps playing like this. I said this on the last video. He's the bulk of this offense without these guys on the court. But with Norman Powell back on the court, I do think he takes a backseat in terms of the minute production. Like his upside is going to be closer to about 35 minutes. And he's definitely not going to be shooting 21, 24, 17, 15 times a game with Norman Powell back in the line because Norman Powell does take minutes and the volume upside away. That being said, when you take these guys off the court, he is averaging close to 1.04 fantasy points per minute. He is projected right now around 34 minutes. I think that's pretty accurate. So he is going to be overvalued. So we're going to be off the Anthony Simons train. He's only showing 3.7% owned. This over-under is right smack dab in the middle unless something is going to happen here with Norman Powell keeping him out. Then I'm pretty much off all these guys here for the Trailblazers. All the price tags have been adjusted upward, and these guys are just going to become GPP plays. Really no interest whatsoever here in the Portland Trailblazers. Switching over to the Orlando Magic here, pretty much same exact situation. These guys are all healthy. I know it's kind of crazy to say because they still have Wendell Carter out, Michael Carter Williams, Fultz, Isaac, and more out. But all the price tags have been adjusted upwards to reflect these guys already being out. So Jalen Suggs is a guy that's recently come back. He's been getting an uptick in minutes here. A 4.8K price tag, played 24, 22, and 29 minutes the past 3 games. Keep in mind that Dallas was a blowout, so he could be playing closer to 27 to 28, 29 minutes. That's his normal rotation right now. They're projecting him for 26. He has been playing well in his time back here, averaging over a fantasy point per minute. So that's another thing to consider. He actually is a decent GPP option if you're happening to land in that range there, the 4.8K price tag. The minute upside does scare me, but the 4.8K price tag, definitely he can easily pay that off. And with him being back, actually Cole Anthony has been taking a back seat in terms of minutes. So they've gotten pulled back a little bit here. He played 29 minutes, and that was a very close competitive game. He was in a little bit of foul trouble, but 33 before that and 26 in his last game, but that was also a blowout. So Cole Anthony, we're used to seeing him playing 35 minutes plus without Jalen Suggs in the lineup, and that also does eat into his production. Therefore, bringing me to my very first favorite prize pick here on the board, Cole Anthony at a 35 prize pick projection. I'm hitting the under on that. I really do think the minutes are being pulled back here, and this is a bigger rotation just for all these players. I mean, we still have RJ Hampton, Terrence Ross, Akiki, Franz Wagner, Gary Harris, like all these guards and these scoring options here eating into Cole Anthony's production. When Cole Anthony is the only guy on the floor, yes, I do love him. And he's actually really not that bad of a salary here at 7.3K, but I have to see at least 30 plus minutes from him, and that's something that's not guaranteed every single time out here. Do like the pace of the game, 216, and the Orlando Magic are projected to score 107 points, but Cole Anthony, again, 35 seems a little bit too aggressive. I'm hitting the under on that again. Enter code using DGF for 100% matchup to $100. Guys, prize picks is the future, the way to play. You simply hit the over or under on any certain fantasy point projection or player prop. There's a ton of player props to choose around. There's so many sports to choose on this website. But yeah, let's go ahead and focus on the next game here. Really no interest outside of those couple players for the Orlando Magic. With Toronto, I have a ton of interest in this roster, especially for some GPP options, and I'll tell you why. So they've been rolling out, Nick Nurse has been rolling out a different starting lineup as of late. With Gary Trent out of the lineup, they've been experimenting. They started Precious Achiuwa last game, which is very, very crucial. If he is starting and playing again, 39 minutes is crazy. Boucher played 37 minutes when he started last game without Gary Harris in the lineup. Gary Trent in the lineup. So whoever starts for this starting rotation, they're going to probably be playing heavy minutes. And whether that be Boucher or Achiuwa, if they're playing 30 plus minutes, I love them at their price points. Boucher historically is close to a 1.2 fantasy point per minute. And if he's seeing over 30 minutes at a 5.7K price tag, I do love him. And then also Precious Achiuwa at 3.9K. It's very, very cheap. Anytime he's playing over 30 minutes at that price point, I'm going to be all over him. So really, it's going to come down to who's going to start for them. Even if Gary Trent does play, if they happen to roll out another crazy lineup, then yeah, I'm going to be over Boucher and Precious Achiuwa. But if this starting rotation is Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent, Anobi, Scotty Barnes, and Pascal Siakam, then yes, I don't have any interest in those other bigs there because they are going to be playing backup minutes. But again, if Gary Trent is out, Nick Nurse is expected to just experiment with this rotation. He's been rolling out a different lineup every single game, and whoever starts at that center option, power forward option, is going to be a very good play at their price point. Other than those two players, I really don't have the most interest. Gary Trent, if he does start and play, he's actually the best point per dollar value and still under that 5 point per dollar value. So a little bit of interest there. But, these guys, the price tags have been adjusted upward. Anobi at 6.7K, he always has a minute upside. Scotty Barnes at 6.3 always has them in upside. Their fantasy points per minute, though, aren't thrilling. And with all these guys back here, you're pretty much taking a stab in the dark here with all of these Toronto Raptors. Switching over to the Miami Heat, I do have a lot of interest in one single player, and that is going to be Jimmy Butler. He is expected to play. He is off the injury report officially, and this is a good matchup for them against Toronto. It should be somewhat competitive right now. It is a 3-point spread there at home for the Miami Heat. Bam Adebayo is questionable. If he does play, he should be limited coming back. Right now, he's projected to play 29 minutes, but Jimmy Butler's the guy I have my eye on here. He did play 35 minutes last game. This was a very low over-under, so I wouldn't look too much into that. He also shot 1 of 11. When does Jimmy Butler ever shoot 1 of 11? He had a very bad game and still scored 33 points. This brings me to my next favorite prize pick entry here on the slate. Right now, Jimmy Butler has a projection on prize picks of 42 points, and I'm going to be hitting the over on that. I think he easily covers that, assuming this game does stay competitive. Toronto is a good team, so there should be a lot of back and forth, and Jimmy Butler did get a price reduction, so I also do like him on DraftKings, a little bit lower owned here, 18.6% ownership. Anytime Jimmy Butler's in that 9 to 10K range, it starts to get a little dicey, but now that he's dipping below that 9K price tag, he can easily pay off that price point there. Price picks right now having him projected at 45 points. I think he's going to hit the over there. The rest of these guys don't have too much interest in. They all did get price reductions. Bam Adebayo himself here at 7.8K is projected to play 29 minutes. I think he has to play his full minutes for him to really make sense, and we don't really know what that's going to look like. So in his first game back, I probably wouldn't take too much of a chance there on Bam Adebayo. The only guy I have true interest in is going to be Jimmy Butler himself here at 8.9K. Switching over to the OKC Thunder, really one guy I want to talk about, and that's going to be Lou Dort. Lou Dort is projected to play 33 minutes, and this guy just plays consistent minutes all the time. 34, 33, 29, 28, 27, 33 minutes. He is bumping, in between about 28 to 34-ish minutes every single game at a 5.3K price tag. He's guaranteed minutes. So one thing that does suck is the pace of this game. So I do consider him more of a GPP option. He's still showing a little bit of ownership here at 16.9%. We have him at a 5.2 3-point per dollar value, so I definitely don't mind him. But the rest of these guys, really no interest because of the pace of the game. The matchup is just very scary. This is the lowest, second lowest over-under here on the slate, and an 11-point spread for the Dallas Mavericks. So the Thunder are projected to score 100 points on the dot. Really doesn't make sense from a pace perspective. Lou Dort only projected 33 minutes right now. But again, that's more than enough to cover that 5.3K price tag. Switching over to the Dallas Mavericks here, Porzingis is back, and he's actually showing a decent amount of ownership here, 24.9% ownership, 7.9K. I think he just passes the eye test, and that's the reason he's showing ownership. Really don't have any interest. He is still coming back from an injury, so I think they limited his minutes here. 33, 28 the past 2 games. The last game was a blowout, so I'm not in love with that ownership there. 7.9K. They are projected to almost borderline blow out the Thunder, so that's also scary. If this game does blow out, then they're all going to take a backseat in terms of minutes. Really no interest whatsoever. I know Doncic did come down the price tag. but not enough for me with Porzingis back and also Brunson. So there's a lot of usage to go around here, and that price tag is just not as appealing as some other of these stud pay-up options, which I will get to a little bit later on in the slate. So these guys, just a little bit of interest in GPPs, but Porzingis, if he's showing that much ownership and you happen to land on him as a last piece in cash, I definitely don't mind it. And Finney Smith, I don't know why he's showing any ownership. He is just horrible fantasy point per minute wise. They get the price reduction, and he's projected to play 32 minutes, but fantasy point per minute wise, this guy stinks. Would not play him in a cash contest. Switching over to the Phoenix Suns, now we're starting to get to a little bit more interest. DeAndre Ayton did sprain his ankle last game and come out. So I'm going to assume he's not playing. Right now, Fantasy Cruncher is projecting him to play 20 minutes. Don't really know why. I guess they're indifferent on whether he's going to play or not. But if he does sit, we have the most obvious value play on the slate by far. He's also showing the highest ownership. I don't really know why he's only showing 30.6, but we can assume DeAndre Ayton is out. When JaVale McGee has started and played, he's playing between about 20 to 25 minutes. He played 22-23 when he did start, 25-26. 25, 26 minutes. So yeah, we can expect, anywhere from about 22 to 26 minutes here from JaVale McGee. But fantasy point per minute wise, this guy is elite. And at a 3.7K price tag, he is the more obvious value play on the slate. And really a lot more of these Suns do make sense when DeAndre Ayton is ruled out. If he is ruled out, of course, there is a chance he does play. But if he's ruled out, I do have a little bit more interest in guys like Devin Booker. Keep in mind, this is an over-under that is the highest on the slate right now against the San Antonio Spurs, a 227, second highest, actually. But Devin Booker, shooter and a high-paced spot, did get the price reduction without Ayton. We're projecting him around a 5.1 point per dollar value. Definitely have a little bit of interest in him in terms of GPPs. And also Jay Crowder. Crowder has also been playing very well and been playing a decent amount of minutes here, especially if DeAndre Ayton is out. They're going to need him to play more power forward minutes, maybe slide him into a center in some of these rotations. But again, if DeAndre Ayton is out, we expect him to play about 31 to 33-ish minutes. And fantasy point per minute wise, he's not the best. He's not the worst, averaging 0.79 fantasy points per minute at a 4.8K price tag. The minute upside will be there without DeAndre Ayton, and I definitely don't mind him at a 4.8K price tag. And then I have minimal interest in guys like Chris Paul at a 7.7K price tag, and also Mikal Bridges. They all got price reduction, so I think these guys will jump up in ownership across the board if DeAndre Ayton is ruled out, and I do think he is going to be ruled out because that is an ankle sprain, and he did come out last game. Switching over to the San Antonio Spurs, I also do have some interest here. Keldon Johnson has been playing pretty consistent starter minutes, even with all these guys back. The Spurs are pretty much fully healthy with the exception of Trey Mann, which really doesn't eat into the minutes anyway. Playing 30 and 33 minutes the past two games, so we're going to project him for about 31, 32 minutes. And as long as he is playing, this is a good matchup here versus the Phoenix Suns, a decently high over-under in a 5.1K price tag. He's actually showing some ownership. So I do have interest in Keldon Johnson in cash and smaller GBPs. A 25.9% ownership projection is what we have right now. And another guy I have a lot of interest in is going to be Jakob Poeltl. He did sit last game, but if he is expected to be back, and he does play starter minutes here at a 6.6K price tag. Without DeAndre Ayton, he has a very good matchup, and he's projected to score 35.2 points here and a 5.33 point per dollar value. I do think he's going to be continue to be lower owned, especially if DeAndre Ayton is ruled out and JaVale McGee takes all the center ownership. So a great pivot option, Jakob Poeltl, great upside, and he is going to play around 32 to 33 minutes if he does start and play. And then last but not least, we do have the Utah Jazz and LA Lakers here. Rudy Gobert had a sensational night versus Jokic last night, scored 48.75 points, an 8.3K price tag, did get a price reduction, and he has another good matchup here again. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys gets ruled out after lock because, again, this is a back-to-back. But as of right now, Rudy Gobert is expected to play and start against Dwight Howard. So that's a thing to consider. He's going to be showing lower ownership, especially if DeAndre Ayton is ruled out. So yet another good GBP option here at the center spot. Another guy I want to talk about is Joe Ingles. He is going to be playing around 26 minutes if this does remain competitive. He is coming off the bench. But he did get a huge price reduction down to 3.6K from 4K. So I don't mind him as a value piece if you're looking to punt. He's one of the few value options there. A 5.42 point per dollar value is what we have him at right now. Definitely don't mind him for GBPs. Again, he will be showing lower ownership, showing 18.4% ownership as of right now. The rest of these guys don't have too much interest in outside of Rudy Gobert and Joe Ingles. But last but not least, we do get to the LA Lakers. And my favorite stud pay-up option is going to be here with LeBron James. This game is expected to be somewhat competitive, a 4-point spread. This is at the Lakers and the highest over-under here on the slate. So weird to say. because historically Utah is a good defensive team, but they have been pushing the pace this season along with the LA Lakers, so that's why the over-under is so high. 10.9K to get the price reduction. I think he's going to be pretty chalky. LeBron James, there's nothing to say about that. I know this is a not so good matchup for them, but LeBron James is expected to play the entire game alongside Russell Westbrook, still without AD, so I definitely don't mind him here at a 10.9K price tag. Also, Dwight Howard, if he does start, which he did last game, he did play 21 minutes. So if he does start and play at a 3.3K price tag, another good center option that's at very low ownership. He should be very low owned if JaVale McGee is available and does play. And start for DeAndre Ayton. But Dwight Howard at a 3.3K price tag, a very good pivot option because we know historically fantasy point per minute wise, he's not that bad. 1.05 fantasy point per minute player. And one last guy I do want to talk about here is going to be Malik Monk. As long as he starts and plays, has been playing consistent starter minutes here, as long as the game remains competitive. So in the competitive games, 29, 20, 29, 35, 37 minutes. Minute upside is going to be there, a 5.9K price tag, and just an okay play. But again, the minute upside is going to be there. And he does play shooting guard, which makes him very easy, makes it very flexible to fit into your lineups. But that would be the last guy I talk about. Russell Westbrook, just hasn't been good. 9.4K price tag. I think that's overpriced. So, favorite options on the slate as of right now. I think there's a couple I do want to highlight here. I did crunch a lineup based on the projections. Again, if DeAndre Ayton is ruled out, I do want to lock in JaVale McGee. I also want to lock in Keldon Johnson. I think he's a very obvious play here on the slate. I also want to lock in whoever starts for those Toronto Raptors, assuming that Gary Trent is ruled out. But if he does play, I do want to default to somebody like Jimmy Butler. I think he's very undervalued as of right now. And then I also want to start Jay Crowder if DeAndre Ayton is ruled out, because I do think he's going to play that minute upside of about 30 to 33-ish minutes. And that will wrap up my video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this content. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NBA content. I will see you on the live stream later, and let's cash.